Hi, I'm Marnie McBean, and among other things, I am, waiting for a slide, there it is. I am a 3-time Olympic champion, and I have a bronze also. But I actually never talk about the bronze, but yeah, come on. I'll eat up some of my 7 minutes with that. But yeah, so I never talk about the bronze, but it's the perfect place to start today because I learned more about the importance of play from the time I was third than any of the times that I won medals. And don't get me wrong, I'm really proud of the bronze medal, but to me it was a miss. And like most of our misses, it's the one that sent me into the most reflection to try and figure out what I hadn't done that day, what we were missing from our training, so that I could figure out how not to do it again. And it didn't happen right away, but from that medal, I learned that if you take play out of your work becomes a grind. And if you can somehow keep play in your work, then it's going to remain a passion. This is the quad. This was the crew that I was in when I won that bronze medal. So Kathleen Heddle, who's on the far side, and myself, we already had 2 Olympic golds from the Barcelona Olympics. We would go on to win a 3rd Olympic gold at the Atlanta Olympics. But when we had competed in Barcelona, we had done 2 events. And having 2 events to compete in and to train for had given us some really dynamic opportunities. And to be quite frank, the opportunity of doing 2 events, which is something that no other countries were doing, just the bold challenge of it, well, that was really fun. It's always really fun to do something that everyone's telling you that you can't do. So 2 years before the Atlanta Olympics, we put this crew together, and the point was we wanted to do it again. We wanted to get 2 Olympic gold medals. And we had a great shot to succeed, but first we had to figure out, how to beat everybody, and specifically how to beat the Germans, because they had been the best in this event for a very long time. And when you want to go to the Olympics and you want to win, you don't just go, ooh, I'm dreaming of Olympic golds and think all Citius, Altius, Fortius. We had 2 years of looking at strategy, analyzing and comparing what our strengths were versus the strengths of everybody else. And we knew when we looked at the Germans, if we looked at our physical strength, checkpoint Canada. If I went through every one of those women and lined us up against the Germans, I was quite certain that physically we were stronger. And then technically, maybe checkpoint Germans. The Germans, they just row this boat. It's a very technical boat. They rowed it beautifully. And as much as we did drills and we studied video and we drilled some more for 2 years and we brought our technique so close to theirs, maybe point Germany. But then strategy and tactics, we had those. Definitely, that's always been my wheelhouse, is strategy and tactics. And we had everything about our race plan. It was designed to go after the Germans' weaknesses. Everything in our race plan for 2 years, we were focusing on how to make sure we were taking advantage of our own strengths. But we were missing something, because every time we raced the Germans, it was Germany 1, Canada 2. And I kept trying to figure out what it was, and I couldn't figure out what we were missing. And the day that I did figure out what we were missing, it was really annoying, because it was the day of the Olympic final in Atlanta. And it always sucks when you figure out what you needed to know after you needed to know it, but it tends to come to you at those moments. But at that point in time, I knew exactly what we were missing. This is the Ukrainian quad. And when we crossed the finish line in Atlanta, not only had we not beaten the Germans, but the Ukrainian quad had beaten us. And that would have really pissed me off, because I don't like not winning, but that would have really pissed me off if I didn't find myself so distracted and frankly envious of the reaction that the Ukrainian women were having. It was just so lovely and joyous, and the reason I was envious was because I was quite certain that if we had come second, we wouldn't have been that happy. And I thought about it, and I'm like, I think even if we had won the race, if we'd beaten the Germans, I don't think we would have been that happy. We wouldn't have shown that kind of joy. And it was right then that I understood what had been missing from our training. And it was obvious that the Ukrainians had had a lot of fun. They had a lot of joy, and they had a spark. And that was something that had been missing from our training. We didn't have the spark. And so all work and no play had made Canada good, but it hadn't made us great. So jumping ahead to my next career, after I finished rowing, my next career was mentoring other Canadian athletes. And so my job from 2006 to 2014 was to help Canadian athletes have swagger and confidence, specifically in the Olympic environment. And at first, I have to say, at first I was working with mostly rookies and non-medalists because, well, we hadn't started to own the podium yet. We kind of sucked at Olympic Games. And so, and when I did have returning medalists and returning champions, they were more outliers than anything else. So with my Olympic rookies, my role was to help Canadians know that as normal as they thought they were exactly the type of person who could achieve Olympic success. Kind of, if I could do it, you could do it too. And the messaging was never complicated. It was always really simple because everyone was having so much fun doing this big chase at the beginning of their career. The messaging was like, if you make a mistake, that's okay. No one expects you to be perfect. Just jump up, dust yourself off, learn from it, go out and play, and go for it. And then Vancouver happened. And in Vancouver, Canada started to win. And we started to really own the podium. And I started to notice that, you would think that this experience of winning the Olympics would make it easier as they prepared for their next Olympics to continue to win, but it was kind of making it harder. And the returning athletes, as they were prepping for the Sochi Olympics, they were finding it was increasingly, their mental preparation was increasingly complicated. Everything in their life was getting complicated. And when they made mistakes now, they were feeling judged. Ooh, who saw that? What must they think? I'm supposed to be an Olympic champion. Right? They felt that perfection, was expected. They expected it of themselves, and they felt everybody was going to expect it of them. So listening to all of the athletes from all the different sports that I was working with, the problem was the same. The questioning was the same. Where's the fun gone? And thinking back to my own career, I couldn't help but think about the Ukrainians and learning too late the problem with missing joy from our preparation. And so we started to understand that perhaps expectation is the enemy of play. As all of us progress through our careers, we get more mature, we expect more of ourselves, other people expect more of us. That all of a sudden, as this expectation goes up, this sense of joy and play somehow gets put to the side. The work that we once loved and sort of reveled in starts to feel like a burden, and it starts to feel like a grind. But of course, the Canadian athletes, they didn't want to just roll over and go, well, I guess I've got expectation, I'm not supposed to win anymore. They wanted to figure it out. They wanted to succeed again. So we had to look through. And we updated our understanding of expectation. So while my title of the speech here is Expectation is the Enemy of Play, we updated that to expectation can be the enemy of play, but it doesn't have to be. And so from that point in time, the conversations became very much about reframing what fun looks like now. What fun looks like at this point in my career. Not what fun looked and felt like at the beginning, and if we think about relationships, not what love felt like at the beginning, but what love feels like now, what play feels like now. What am I going to enjoy about now? And so when we got back to reframing what fun looks like and how fun feels, it was really about simply getting back to the basics and reframing them. Joy comes from being curious and letting yourself make mistakes and not taking yourself too seriously, something we do too much as we progress through our careers. Fun comes from being open to new ideas, trying new things and change, because it's impossible to know everything. I thought this one through, but I'm going to swear. Only an asshole says that they know everything, right? Sorry, you can bleep that out, except for the live streaming bit. And then mature play. Mature play is about, frankly, mature play is about embracing stress. It's about being okay with stress. Too often we're trying to avoid stress. But truthfully, given the choice, we will choose a stressful situation 9 times out of 10. Because being stressed is way more fun than being bored. Play doesn't just mean playgrounds and balls and recreational, sorry Bruce. Play doesn't mean balls and recreational goofing around. It should be in our careers. Play should be in our relationships. Play can be in all of the hardest things that we want to do. Joy doesn't mean just skipping around and big goofy smiles. Your joyful state, as mine is, my joyful state is eye of the tiger, vampire fangs, digging down and going for the jugular. Learn to frame joy and play as you like it. Stay passionate about what you're doing. Don't let expectations burden you and take away play. Let expectations lift you up and inspire you. Work shouldn't always be a grind. Stay passionate about what you do by remembering the importance of including some kind of play in what you're doing. I wish I had, because then I would have 4 golds, and I wouldn't have to explain to kids all the time why this gold medal is so much darker than those 3. Thank you.